You have a choice to make. Hey, what's up you guys? It's Brooke. Welcome back to my channel. This is Mabel. Hey baby. She's the real star of the show here. Okay guys, so today we're going to be talking all things self-tapes and what you guys can be doing to stand out in your self-tapes. We're going to go through some technical stuff and some performance stuff, so let's get into it. But before we start, you guys should subscribe here. I'm pretty cool. I went through 4 years of college to learn all of this stuff and am in debt just to give it to you for free. So like, the least you can do is subscribe and maybe leave a like. Alright, let's hop into it. Okay, so whether you've been in this industry a long time or not, you're probably auditioning a lot and hearing a lot more no's than yeses. And that's totally fine and to be expected. But there are things we can do to lessen those no's and get more yeses in our self-tapes, and I'm gonna go through that with you guys. I wanna start off with some technical stuff because not everybody knows how to self-tape. So technical tip number 1 is you're gonna wanna make sure you have good lighting. I feel like this is like the number 1 rule. I've seen some people who have 2 different lights that are on 45-degree angles and a light behind them. I see people like me who have a ring light. I literally only use this one light, and I can link this light below for you in the description. But if you can't afford a ring light, it is totally fine to film in front of a window. It is gonna limit you a little bit. You're gonna have to film during daytime. Make sure you have enough time to get in all those takes, but good lighting is essential. Aside from good lighting, you also wanna have good audio. Make sure your camera or your phone has good audio. Make sure your reader is a bit further away from the camera so their voice isn't overpowering you. As far as what devices to film on, you wanna use something that has good quality, but you also want to make sure that it's not too good of quality so the files are too big. You can usually only upload files that are 200 megabytes, and casting doesn't want big files, so if you're not submitting directly on a casting website, just make sure that you check your file size and make sure it's smaller. I film on a Canon EOS 70D, so the quality can be quite high, and if I'm filming a long scene, the megabytes get pretty big, so usually what I have to do is lower the resolution to 720 HD. It's still HD, the quality is perfectly fine, but with those longer scenes sometimes you want to make sure the megabytes are lower. You don't have to film on a professional camera though. You can film on an iPhone, Android. As long as the camera is decent and you have good lighting, it should be just fine. My third tip and another essential tip is you don't want to have a distracting background. You want to film against a plain wall. Usually I would suggest you buy some type of blue screen. I can link the one I have below. You could also buy a photography background and use that. There are plenty of different things you can use. If you can't afford a blue screen, just film against a plain wall. It doesn't really matter the color. As long as the color is not going to overpower you or clash with what you're wearing, you should be fine. Tip number 5, don't look directly into the camera, like I'm doing right now. For your slate, that's perfect. When you're reading, you want to create a sight line, so I usually look over here. You could also look over here if there's another character. You could look all around the room. Do not look directly into the lens. And last technical tip is just make sure you're following directions. Read them very carefully and very thoroughly. I know that a lot of them can be a lot sometimes. There's a lot of little things that you don't want to miss. Make sure you're labeling your takes correctly. Make sure your file sizes are correct. Make sure your slate is correct and that you're saying everything in the slate that they ask you to say. All these things are going to make a difference in why they're going to choose you or not. So now that we just went through some technical things, let's get into some performance things that can really put you above and beyond in your audition and make you stand out. So something you want to do is with your reader, make sure that they give you a moment before to kind of get into character before your scene starts. So for example, if I were to be filming a self-tape right now, I'll know where my character is coming from, where they're going to, and there's a narrative going through my head. I didn't just appear here and all of a sudden my reader's gonna yell action and the lines are gonna start. So it's not all of a sudden gonna be like, action. Hey Lisa, what's up? Hey John, I just came from the supermarket. No, you're saying these lines for a reason. Every scene has a purpose. So you have to figure out what your character's purpose is, why you're here in this moment, and what happened right before you're about to say these lines. Did you run into your ex at the supermarket? Did you just get a phone call that your fish passed away? These are the things you need to know that are going to help enhance your scene and bring your character to life. All this stuff should be figured out before you start the audition. You don't want to be standing there thinking thinking about what your moment before is. This is all in the work before the audition. And a little tip I like to do is before I start saying my lines, I like to kind of act out that moment before and go through it. I literally just did an audition the other day where my character was running, and so instead of just standing there and acting out of breath before the camera started rolling and before I started saying my lines, I literally went off screen, ran into frame, and was actually winded. So I wasn't acting, it was a real physical action, and it completely brought life to the character in the scene. Performance tip number 2 is you want to make sure you are making strong choices. And not just strong choices, but different choices than everybody else is making. So let me dig into this a little bit. When you're reading a line in your scene, you have a choice to make. Let's say the line is, "John, I hate you." How many different ways are there to say that? Depending what's going on in the scene, the context, what's given to you on the actual script, sometimes they have little blurbs of what's going on before. Always make sure you're reading the entire script, not just where it says start and end. You'll have a little context, and then you can decide what choice you're making as to why the character is saying that line and what they mean behind it. So, for example, let's say that Lisa just got home from the grocery store and she sees John eating her chips. And that's all the context you're given. And the first line is, "John, I hate you." You could be annoyed. "John, I hate you." You could be funny. "John, I hate you." Or you could be in love. "John, I hate you." So as you can see, there's many different ways you could read a line. You have to make that choice and make it a strong choice. Even if it's the wrong choice, it could be right. Casting directors don't want to see you make a safe choice or a right choice. They want to see what choice you decide and that you're strong on it, because the choice that you decide might not be exactly what they were looking for, but then they realize exactly what they were looking for by seeing the way you read that, and boom, you have the role. Performance tip number 3, don't be different, be you. So when people say things like make bold choices, that doesn't mean you should be screaming and throwing glass across the room in an angry scene, or filming yourself taped naked in a shower scene. There are things you can do to enhance your scene and make it bold, but it has to be true to who you are. If it feels right to you, then it is right. I can't even count on my hands how many times I've heard casting directors say, you know, this person broke the rules and that's why we hired him. This person did something that he shouldn't have and that's why we hired him. All of these times they're still following the directions and doing what is asked of them, having good lighting, being against a plain background, but also just bringing some spice to it and making the character feel real and like they're actually watching this scene through your self-tape. I've seen male identifying actors book roles from intimate scenes that they were filming where they don't have shirts on, and usually you don't want to do that, but that was a bold choice and that's why they were chosen. I heard a story from a casting director who said that somebody filmed an entire short film, a really well-produced short film, out of their sides, and they were chosen because everyone was just blown away by it. So you really never know what they're looking for and what they're ultimately going to choose. You just have to make sure that it's you. At the end of the day, don't try and copy those ideas and be those people. Do what feels natural to you. If you have an idea that you want to explore, do it. Be bold and be confident with that choice. Show these casting directors what makes you special and why you should be getting that yes. Well, that's really all I have for you guys. So if you guys like these tips, make sure you leave this video a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them in the comments as well. Follow me on social media, keep up to date with what I'm working on, and I will see you guys in next week's video. Bye!